You're watching evhgear TV, brought to you by Mike's Music. Visit Mike's Music online for all your EVH and other gear needs. Microphones for evhgear TV are provided by Rode Microphones, and official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com. Now, here's your host from Ontario, Canada, EVH gear artist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, happy Wednesday evening to you all. Welcome to EVH Gear TV. We are live, and I'm joined once again, by a good friend, longtime friend. We're going to get into this. How long? Rob Johnson. Rob, how are you, man?
Good. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you, Eric.
Good. You too. You too. I posted on Facebook when I posted the link to this for people to tune in. I said last time you were here, it was a very popular episode. A lot of comments still coming in on that video. You were showing your guitar collection back then. And some people just, hadn't really seen people that collect as many guitars as you and some of your friends do, and some of the people in our circle of friends. So it was a real pleasant, video for them to check it out and kind of encourage people to make some of their own guitars too, and then see what EVH brand has and all these other things. So looking forward to round two and a bit of an updated look at some of your guitars. So you've got actually your collection has grown somewhat since last time. How many do you think would you say, we won't get into how many you have yet, because that's a question I have for you, but how has your collection changed since maybe your last visit here?
Well, first off, I'll just say, I'll take the credit for that. I am a popular guy and everybody loves to see me. So no, I'm joking.
I love it. I love it.
I'm one of the most humble people there is out there.
I know, that's true.
It was great doing your show the last time, and had a great time. It's always fun to, talk about Van Halen guitars. I guess my collection is how it's changed. Mm-hmm. A lot of it stayed the same. I'm constantly tweaking things and adding different knobs and different, pick guards. And, when you paint these things and you're constantly updating them, you're always seeing new pictures and, I got to change that, or I got to make that look a little better. So I'm, constantly taping stuff off and adding new stripes and tweaking little things, but sometimes putting new hardware on. So a lot of it stayed the same. Definitely some different guitars. Mm-hmm. I would say probably in the last year since we did the last one, I've probably acquired 4, maybe 5 newer guitars, and a couple of them will be coming in the next few days, and some new paint jobs and things like that. So nice. It's always changing. So definitely some new hardware.
Yeah, I was going to say 4 to 6 guitars, because I'm kind of spoiled because you tell me these things, and and you share them with other people as well too. But I was thinking about between 4 and 6 guitars. And that's the thing too, we're always chasing, just like Eddie's always chasing tone. It's like, especially you guys that do a lot of the collecting of the, the guitars that you build yourself. I haven't done that in a lot of years, many, many years. And the reason why I kind of got out of it, because I was, I'm very impatient. When I want to make a guitar, I've made jokes about this before. I'll spray paint it, and then 15 minutes later, I'm ripping off the stripes, and I want to play it, and I got fingerprints stuck into the body of the guitar. So that's why I did give up. It's just
I'm about as impatient as you are too, and I've certainly learned the hard way. One of the things that Eddie says a lot is, he said all the guitars that he said in interviews over the years, he's ruined and destroyed from cutting V's out of it and, cutting off, parts off of 335 guitars and stuff like that. I've definitely made some mistakes with all these things over the years. And I guess as I get a little bit older, I realize that, you're forced into a certain level of patience, but I can certainly understand. You're an incredible guitar player too.
Thank you.
And I watch some of the stuff you do when you play, and it's really, really good. I obviously play guitar. I've been playing for probably about 21 years, but I'm probably more of a hobbyist, more of a Van Halen collector hobbyist, and I'm a player second, right. Just because I have so many other things that I do in my life. But I try to play. I've actually been playing a lot more lately than I have in the past few years. So it's been good.
That's good. And whatever source of inspiration brings it out, if it's collecting the guitars, if it's maybe new Van Halen, gear or whatever it is, no matter what it is, it could even just be anything. Maybe Van Halen, not related to Van Halen at all. As long as there's a source of inspiration to play, that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And draining the checkbook, that's for sure.
I know.
Don't have a lot of his money these days.
I know. It's one of those things, we get the gas, right, for gear, and no matter what it is, a new amp, a new guitar, And it's nice when you can get to a point. I know sometimes we all, you yourself included, sometimes you have to part with a guitar to get another guitar, and that really hurts because it's almost like the herd is never growing, right? So you're just kind of trading one, but a lot of times we can get something else without getting rid of another, and that's a really rewarding thing. And that's where in the past few years, it's come nice for me that I really appreciate, my better half, Sandra here, Poison Ivy. She will literally get mad at me if I even hint at trading a guitar for another guitar. It's like, no. And then I'm like, okay, after that sinks in for a second, I'm like, man, I'm blessed because, a lot of partners may say, no, you have to sell that, sell that to pay a bill or something like that. So I'm very lucky. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been divorced for about 2 years, and I will say my ex-wife, who I still have a very working relationship with because of our 2 children, she was very supportive, of my firearms collection, of my guitar collection. She wasn't a fan of me buying new guitars, but she was always very understanding. I mean, when you have 20, 30 guitars, it's hard to I used to have this little trick. I'd take a spare case out the door and, hey, hon, I got to go get a guitar worked on. Guitar worked on. There's nothing in the case, and
I like it.
With a guitar.
I've heard other stories too where people they'll go into a music store, they'll bring the wife with them, and they'll pick up like a Squire Telly, whatever, a beautiful looking Squire Telly, bring it home, show the wife, whatever, and well, honey, yeah, that's great, good investment, $200, that's awesome. And then she goes to work the next day, and you go back to the music store and trade it in for the U.S. Special, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She used to come downstairs when I had my old house, and she'd see the guitar room, and she'd look, and is that one new? Is that one new? Nope.
Oh, what are you talking about? That's been here forever. You remember you bumped into it with the vacuum the one day. Yeah. And how many pairs of shoes did she have, and how many designer purses did she have? And you didn't complain, right? Yeah. I know it's a little different than a guitar, but at the same time, and the thing is too, the women that come into our lives, thank goodness that they do. They when they meet us, they see these quirks that we have, and we have an obsession with guitars and Van Halen. So, if they don't judge you and they don't run for the hills at that moment, look, you had a chance to run. You know what I mean?
Well, like I said, being in the dating game, at 44 years old, and it's always really cool, when you meet a new date, and they come over to your place and they see this guitar collection, and you plug in and they're like, wow, that's incredible. And then they see your martial arts studio and your gun collection. It's like, this guy is incredible.
Yeah.
I say, just give me 2 months and you're going to hate me. So
yeah.
I'm kidding.
And that's the thing, because, it's not only the love, you have the love for the girl, whoever it is. And then you've got the love for, and a lot of these things are serious relationships. When I say that, I'm talking about the relationship with music, with martial arts, and with firearms training. We're going to get into all of those tonight, but they all take a level of passion. And, I think that takes a certain kind of person that can dedicate resources to each of those and still be successful at all of them, which you seem to do like in spades. Number one, when you're building guitars and playing guitar, you're doing a fantastic job at that. We see a lot of the martial arts and firearm safety things that you do, and you do very, very well at that too. It's like one of these, I've had some people on the show a few times where I've had guests and I just look at them, I'm like, is there anything you can't do? You know what I mean? And it's frustrating, but it's also really cool because we can all learn a little something from that. I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's fun, and that's the biggest thing, about all this stuff. I'm my guitarist background is, even though I've been playing for 20 years, and I can play, and I actually did play in a very small Van Halen tribute band maybe about 12 years ago. But like I said, but the guitar playing for me is more of a hobby than anything else, whereas the martial arts and the firearm stuff is more of a profession. But no doubt, all 3 of them are passions of mine. And, plus I have a full-time career and 2 kids, and, trying to hold down a personal life. So there's a lot of go, but I guess that's what keeps us young, is we have to have a passion for something.
I agree. And would tell me if I'm right, and assuming this with you, I imagine as much as sometimes where you're probably sitting at the end of the day saying, how do I get through these days with my schedule? But I think you'd rather be that way than sitting around on the couch and twiddling your thumbs and like, I'm bored.
It's so true, Eric. It's so true. I have, friends of mine and, people that I work with that, some of them even younger than I am that are, not that being physically fit is a top priority for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's all what you want to do. For me, it's always been a priority, but because it makes me feel good. It's what gives me a balance. But I see people, that just kind of sit around and they don't really have a purpose. They're not really motivated to do different things. And, sometimes they're even younger than I am. And it's such a waste, I mean, I think everybody has a gift. Everybody's born with a talent, I should say. And like Eddie Van Halen has said, I think the gift is what you do with that talent.
Yeah.
I've always been a big subscriber to that type of a mindset,
Yeah.
So as tiresome as it can be, the busier the better for me.
I like that as well too. And it's like we're all almost given somewhat of an obligation in life. Now, whether we choose to accept it or not, so that's different with each individual. But let's say someone's gifted at being a handyman, a handy person, I should say, in case it's a woman or a man. And that's one thing I'm not good at. I can't build things out of lumber and, construct things. But, if you're given that talent, if you can't find work, there's always, maybe you could volunteer a few hours at a community, help, especially in some of the states and countries where there's been, damages from storms and hurricanes, all that kind of stuff. Maybe volunteer 8 hours of your time and go help build, some homes or shelters and stuff like that. I think we all have a bit of an obligation to do something with our talents. If you're a guitar player, it doesn't mean you have to become the world's best, most notarized guitar instructor, but do something with it, do something with your talent, at least to say thanks back to the higher powers that gave you that talent, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, just got into a pretty deep conversation with my sensei, my martial arts teacher, yesterday morning when I was at his dojo training, just about the same thing, about the serving aspect of what we do. Because it's all an art. I mean, being a musician, being a martial artist, they're all arts. They're all something that they're very teachable talents. They're teachable skills. They're learnable skills, and they're skills that you can continue to build on. And in every single one of them, I personally believe in. I mean, you're a phenomenal guitarist yourself, so I'm sure you would agree to this. I mean, I think so many times we try to do something where you're trying to play that riff so perfectly, or you're trying to do that technique so perfectly, whatever it is, and you fight with it, and you get frustrated, and you can't do it. But then when you actually just say, you know what, I'm just going to work with it, boom, that's when it comes.
Yeah.
And it's just the most, I mean, it's an art.
Yeah.
When you let the art take over, I think that's when it's the most beautiful.
And I think that's also a good reason to always videotape. Or if you're in the gym doing your, in the dojo, as you would say, doing your routine, or if you're on the fire, like I know you videotape a lot of your firearms training, things like that. And I'm going to say more, maybe for firearms, it might be for accuracy, which you might watch back for later. In the gym, it's for things that maybe physically you couldn't do the day before. Or if you're with your band, you're a beginning band or you're a new band, whatever, out in the club, and videotape your show and go back and watch it like a playbook. You work with kids in sports and stuff like that too, and you can analyze it back. Okay, yep, we sucked there. Holy cow, what did you do here? Right? And then critique it, and you can learn from, I mean, everyone's got phones and GoPros, and we didn't have that when we were kids. Yeah. Right? So analyze.
It's funny too. I mean, every once in a while, I mean, I don't know if you have the same thing, but I'll sit down and on a Saturday afternoon, I'll plug in, playing my guitar, and I'm just jamming away, and it feels good, it sounds good, everything's right there. And then I'm like, all right, I want to get this on video, and I'll set my phone up, record, and all of a sudden, tink, tink, it's like I'm missing notes and everything. It's like, come on,
Yep.
It's like as soon as the record thing goes, it's like the mistakes seem to come in, but
yeah,
I guess that's I don't know. That's just comes with the territory.
I call that the MJF syndrome, the Michigan J Frog syndrome. Remember that from Warner Brothers, open up the tool, hey boss, what do you see this? We're going to be millionaires. Open up the toolkit. The frog comes out, the talking frog, and he ribbits, right? A million times. And that's why more times, and I've said this before, and a lot of guitar players have corrected me on this. But this is me. I have more bad days than good days with guitar. And I'm happy by saying that, because I hope by saying, like, at least that shows the skeletons in the closet and shows the transparency. The fact that, when you have a good day with guitar, there's some days I'll pick up and I'm like, what the heck? Nothing has changed. And here's another piece of advice I'll give people. Most likely nothing has changed from Monday to Wednesday with your guitars and your amplifiers. We probably don't change them too much, especially if you have your favorites. The only thing that's changed is your attitude. You could be mentally, you could be stressed. You could be, you could be sick. So your attitude has a big play, and when, no matter what you do, guitar playing or all these other different things. And as you say, doing these things like the firearms training and the martial arts training, making yourself, taking care of yourself physically, mentally, can having, a positive outcome on your music. And we'll talk about that later in the program too. But that's why I think that when you have bad days, don't be discouraged. Put the guitar down or the instrument down, walk away, figure, what was it? Was I in a bad mood today? Do I suck today? But you will get better the next day. And if it's not the next day you will. And then when you have that moment, whether you record it or not, you remember it, you did it. So you've got the proof in your brain that you had a good day, and you just kind of store that for another rainy day.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the mistakes and the frustrations that we experience in our art, whether it's martial arts, whether it's, firearms training, whether it's playing guitar, playing the trumpet, whatever type of musical background it is, you're good. Like you just said, you're going to have those days, you're going to have those frustrations. And those, to me, I never understood them as much when I was in my 20s and 30s. And I guess, I would let the frustration just kind of dominate me to the point where I'm not doing this. I'd put the guitar down for 3 days. I didn't even want to play, or I wouldn't throw a kick for 3-4 days or a week or whatever. And then you realize as you get older that they're actually teachable moments. Those are actually moments that should be cherished. Those are things that you benefit from, because you learn so much from the mistakes. And like you said, then you have a day when it's like, boom, it's right there.
That's right.
And that's what pays off.
And another thing too you can do too is there's so many shows out there, forums, whether it be some kind of a talk show on the YouTube like this kind of thing, or guitar forums or martial arts forums, and join a lot of these groups, whatever you're into. Join the groups like we all do, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Hey, I'm in a rut with this. What could I do to get out of this rut? I've tried this, blah blah blah, and that's why I think a lot of these little hangout thingies are fun, because people, for the most part, all it is just us talking about things that we love, and then we share a little bit of inspiration, and we share our mistakes, so hopefully one other person can maybe skip over one,
Absolutely.
Yeah, a little bit of fuel for their fire. Let's jump over to the chat real quick, and we're going to come back. One of the things that we didn't talk about last time you were here, and then we're going to get into the really fun meat and potatoes of all the guitars and martial arts and firearms training. We're going to talk about how far we go back. We go back a lot further than people really know, which is cool. So
you and just real quick, not to cut you off.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I go back to the Unchained World days. And,
yes.
And so, I just real quick, that just because I was on their show earlier, wanted to say hi to Johnny and Dave. The guys that I do the other show with. Hey guys, and not so much Dave, but Johnny. I went back 20 years with him for the Van Halen trading list. I mean, you and I have been on members of that for years in the old cassette trading days.
I know. That's where we started a lot of our collections. That's where we're all. I mean, we would trade 2 blanks for 1 cassette, or all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's how we grew our collections way back then. Yeah, it was.
I'll tell you, Eric, when I first saw you was when I started doing these, and forgive me if I'm jumping ahead, but
all good.
Unchained World. Back in like 96.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people ask me, when did you get into the Van Halen thing? It's funny. I mean, I didn't start playing guitar until I was till 1996. So I would have been 23 years old. I was 23 when I started playing guitar. It's something I wanted to do for so long. I mean, I started martial arts when I was like 15, so I got a much earlier start with that. And I was a Van Halen fan since probably 1984. When I was, 11 years old. I mean, I'd heard the first album. It didn't really have a huge dent. I mean, I'd listened to Rod Stewart and stuff prior to that. I was a big fan of the 80s TV show, The A-Team. That was Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. That was everything, A-Team,
Oh, I love that. I love it too.
I still love the A-Team. I still do. But I remember when I first finally said, I want to start playing guitar. I picked up a cheapo Fernandez Strat for like $200. As a matter of fact, I think my ex-wife bought it for me before we were married. And I took lessons for about a year and a half. And the first thing I did was a black Strat with a white pickguard. And I got on, I started really getting into Van Halen because I wanted to learn Van Halen. So the Balance album had just come out. I'd seen them on tour in Balance. And that's when I just fell in love. I said, I got to do this. I mean, it was so powerful seeing Eddie on stage with that Music Man, when I saw him in the Worcester Centrum in 95. And so I went out and bought this cheap little guitar. And within like 2 months, I'm just Googling Van Halen. I see Unchained World, Eric Broadbent's Unchained World. There's this guy named Scott Smith and Jerry Leica building these guitars like I have.
That's right.
And I'm like, these things, you know, and the story about Scott's loaning Eddie his drill, you know, for Pound Cake and the Balance tour. I'm going, this is incredible. So I befriended Scott. I think you and I had sent some emails back and forth, and I was printing off all of these pages on the old, you know, ink blot
dot matrix
printer, you know.
Yep.
And I went on a whim one night after work. I pulled the pickguard off this little Fernandez Strat, and I taped it up and painted it and just striped it and put it back on. It looked so cool. And that was the beginning of the
catalyst. Yeah. Well, before we jump over the chat, we can tell you touch base on it. Let's stay right there for a quick second. That was a really fun time, and I got into Van Halen a lot earlier than you, because I'm a little bit older than you, but I was really into the internet, right? And that's now my livelihood. Is what I do for a living is build websites and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But in that day, and I built a website, and my very first Van Halen webpage was absolutely horrific. I mean horrific. But it's long gone. But I did save that website. I have it on I actually have it on the internet. I don't want to give an address for people to find it. It's hidden. But the only reason why I just wanted to archive it, and I also have it on my computer. But I was looking at it today, and not only did I have the Unchained World, that was one of the domain names. Believe it or not, and man, oh man, I'd give anything to still own this. I used to own evh5150.com.
Really?
Yes.
That's cool.
I own that, and I really want it back. But and I contacted these are one of these domain jackers that own it right now, and you know, I'd actually even like to say, here, Eddie, take it, because that'd be a good domain name to have, right? Sure. But this website, yeah, it was back in its day. There was a few websites that really stood out on the internet, because this was on the dawn of the internet, where everything was pretty boring. There wasn't much graphics out there, that kind of stuff. We were all on dial-up. There was no such thing as any kind of, not even, you know, no such thing as DSL or you know, nothing back in that day. God forbid cable. So it was my site, which was Unchained World, like you talked about. There was the Van Halen News Desk, which was not owned by Jeff at that time. Our friend Grant used to own that. Bill Broadway, one of our mutual friends, he had, you know, Van Halen's B Cubed or something like that. I forget what it was. And then there was Brad, who does the official Van Halen website. He had his own thing at the time before he became picked up by those guys. And there was like the links, and there's just a couple. I want to say probably about 6 that people would have on their favorites, and they come to all the time. And what mine had was, like you mentioned, that was really cool. That was a drawing card to my site, was the Van Halen guitar collection. And I think Scott Smith was one of the first people I featured, and I still have all those pictures of his guitars. And speaking of which, I've reached out to him. We're on Facebook, and there's a good potential he may be on the show in the near future.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Scott's a great guy.
He is a great guy. Jerry Leica, of course, our friend. Scott Way was another one that had some stuff on there. And then just today, what I saw on through the site archive I have, I want to share on maybe on YouTube, but I'm going to share on the Facebook page, is the incredible guitar pick collection from our old friend back in the day, Lou Kruska. And I haven't spoke to him in many years. And we lost. This was like kind of, they didn't have social media, so we had hard ways to find each other. So I want to re-find him and reach out. But I'm going to share all the picks that he shared, and I'm sure his collection has grown astronomically since 1998 or something like that. But there's a lot there, and he has a huge collection. I'm going to share that very, very soon. But it was cool back in that day. You know, got to befriend the management, you know, with Van Halen at the time. And this would be right around the time of the 3 tour, Gary Cherone era. And Scotty Ross was the tour manager. And at the time, playing in the Van Halen tribute band, we all in the band had good ins with the management. And I remember meeting one of the few times we met him in '98. I remember reaching out my hand for the first person I spoke to was Scotty Ross. And I reached out to him right away, and I said, "Hi, Scotty, I'm Eric." And before I even mentioned my last name, he goes, or I was just pronouncing my last name, and he goes, "Oh, Unchained." And he didn't remember the name, the ending of the website, but he remembered the start of it, so he remembered, so they'd seen the website. So that was a real, that's cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, it's funny, you throw these names out too, you know, like Scott Way, and, you know, Lou, and I remember these guys, and it's funny, so a lot of these guys are still doing this stuff today.
Yeah,
some of the names have kind of come and gone. You don't hear from them much anymore. But at the same time, you know, that core group of people that have been doing this for 20 plus years, it's pretty cool.
It was one of the people that's in the chat. I was my good friend, and you know him as well too, Darren Moore.
Yeah.
Him and I, we went over to an event over in Michigan, over at the Token Lounge, which is kind of a, a real famous, rock bar. And I got to meet Jerry for the very first time. Had some passes for a show, and invited two friends. I said, Jerry, you live over there. First time I met him since like the early 90s,
Yeah.
and that was very, very cool. We've talked a lot, leading up to that. So that was cool, getting to hear the stories about building the guitars and all that kind of stuff. So it's neat when you meet the people from the past. Unfortunately, a lot of them, like you say, are still doing what they do, because really, how can you give this stuff up?
I've never met Jerry. Like, I've been friends with him for years. And I still talk to him on the phone and text messages, and he'll shoot me a picture, of a guitar out of the blue. I haven't talked to him in like 6 months. Hey, what do you think of this? And it's like, hey, how you doing? But Scott Smith, is a guy, like I said, I've been physically talking to on the phone since, like I said, 96 when I first started. And he's the one that actually taught me how to do this stuff, how to paint these things. And, and still to this day, I learn from. And you get guys like, Chris Hubbard and the kid, Nick Amendolara, who I've met both of them, and both amazing builders and painters, and they blow me out of the water. I mean, I've been doing this stuff almost as long as these guys both been alive, and they're just incredible talent. But it's so much more different today when you're painting these things, because before we just had to go off of magazine pictures in different angles. Now you can literally dial up on the computer like that, and you can bring up a million pictures. So believe it or not, the process of doing these things is so much easier than it used to be.
Yep.
We all know exactly the type of paint to use. We're not, going out on a limb on that. We know the tape to use. We have exact pictures. We have specs with measurements. So, exact bodies, necks, hardware. So it's so much different. But getting the chance to meet Scott after all these years back in August at the EVH Con, and him and Adam Reaver actually meeting both of those guys,
Same
incredible
time.
people.
Yeah,
just awesome guys. The first thing I saw Scott, he literally walked up, gave me a big hug. He's like, "Hey, bud, how you doing?" It's the first time I ever saw him in person.
Nice.
It was like, we've been friends all these years, but never really had that physical connection. So it was really nice, and one of the things I'll show you in a little while here, one of my guitars, Scott has just been great. He's famous for just, hey, I threw something in the mail for you, hope you can use it.
Nice. I like
that.
He'll
just show up. He's just great, and it's a great community out there. We just, we just give each other things all the time.
Yeah.
Hope you can use this, or hope you can use that, or, whatever. So it's pretty cool.
I noticed, like, when you mentioned meeting somebody for the first time who you've had a relationship with, like, for, it seems like forever. The same thing was with me and Adam. Adam and I, we go back here again, probably to the year 2000. I'm going to say right around, probably the year 2000, maybe 2001, when my band was on its thing. We were doing this push we were doing with the band, and Adam brought me onto the roster, and we'd been very close ever since. And I consider him a very, very dear friend. Like, I share things with him, how my family's doing, like he's in that small circle I have of, the circle of trust and the circle of friends. And, he'll share how things are going with him. I'll share how the family is, that kind of stuff. And I hadn't met him. A lot of people figured I must have met him 30 times or more, meeting him at NAMM. And it was great. It was kind of, I was nervous, cause it's weird to say I'm nervous, but like, I've talked to him a million times, but now we're here, we are, and he dwarfs me in height, and I'm a tall guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was really, really cool. But once that ice barrier was broke, kind of a hug and a fist bump, and it's like, all right, man, this is great. And it's been great ever since. Yeah. I love it.
It is. It's neat. It's really nice to connect with these people. It really is.
For sure.
And there's still a handful of people out there like yourself that I haven't physically met.
That'll change for sure.
Oh, it will.
That's right.
So every year I'm meeting new people that I have a connection with for a long time that this game. But it really is a great community of people, and there's an incredible amount of knowledge. It's like I try to be helpful I get text messages and Facebook messages, all day long, pretty much almost every day, from people, friend requests, from these younger guys, these kids. Hey, Rob, it's, I've been looking at your collection for all these years, how do you do this? How do you do that? And it's, in a time when I was coming up, there was some people that just didn't want to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Scott and not Jerry, not those guys.
Yeah.
But there was some people out there that, you wouldn't really hear back from them.
Yeah.
But the communication avenues, were not as open either back then as they are today.
That's right. You had one medium as like a phone or maybe an email, and that was about it.
Right. And, I mean, to me, it's never been like I've never like hoarded this stuff. Like, oh, this is my secret.
Right.
Like I was telling on Johnny and Dave's show tonight, I was telling them how I did like on my 918V Kramer right here, what you just did, how you do the duct tape wear, like right here. I mean, that is duct tape, but I mean, anybody would say, well, you just put duct tape on there. Well, in order to get it to look like that, you got to leave it on there for years.
Right.
So there's a trick that you have to do in order to get it to not look too awfully labored, but at the same time give it that effect.
That's authentic.
So, yeah, I always want to help people out. It's fun to do that.
I think.
But then on the other hand, I'm still learning this stuff. I mean, after all these years, every day or every week, I'm like, oh, that's a cool trick. Or that's neat how you do that. Or
yeah.
So the process is always evolving. You know what I mean?
I think we should go back to our, like you said earlier, when you talked about the trading community. If we all look at it as a trading community, look, I'm really good at this particular thing with doing the guitars. I'll teach you that. But tell you what, you did the wiring on the pickups. How did you do that? Because maybe the one builder is not good at doing this, but and not good at the electronics. This guy is. Well, I'll teach you how to do that duct tape trick if you teach me how to wire up my pickups. Right? Trade a little bit. Yeah, and then you learn.
The camaraderie, it's that relationship stuff back and forth, and everybody's helping each other out. And that's what I mean. It's a great community. There's so much out there, and there's so, every once in a while you come across somebody that, that's kind of a jerk, or whatever. You ask them a question and they don't,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you anything. It's like, okay, whatever, dude. Go back to your little cave here. The rest of us will play nice.
That's right. Usually that person will get called out because if someone's like, oh, look it up on the internet, then you'll get someone else that, here, I'll tell you. And then that guy feels like an idiot because he was just called out as being an idiot. So, yeah, there's always a good Samaritan out there.
The internet's like instantaneous now,
I know. That's why I've joined a couple of Facebook groups recently. They're not Van Halen related whatsoever, but they're gear related. And I couldn't get over it. I'm actually waiting for someone to be a jerk. Like, would someone just be a jerk to burst my bubble and let me know that I'm not dreaming, whatever? Because you ask a question and they're, let me help you. And in some groups, and it's not just Van Halen related, it's any group, there's jerks in there that are just waiting to attack somebody. And it makes you you're almost afraid to ask a question, right?
That's true. Yeah. There used to be not to pick on the VH links, but years ago, there used to be a little bit of that with links. I remember I used to go in and ask questions and all of a sudden, boom, you're getting flamed by these people out of the blue. You're going, where the heck is this coming from?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, these keyboard commanders just flaming you for asking a question. But for some reason now, it doesn't seem to be as bad. People seem to have really kind of come together and kind of tamed down a little bit. I mean, every once in a while, you'll see a couple of guys going back and forth, pounding away at each other for a little while until the moderator shuts them down. But it seems to be a much more lighthearted and easygoing community.
Yeah.
For the most part, it seems that way. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, I'm sure too. If you go back and you analyze anything that was hateful back in the day, and even up till today, look at the timestamps. You're probably looking at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning after one too many cervezas, and then people, I'm sorry, man, I was an asshole, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It can happen. Yep. Let's jump over the chat, and I'm sure people are very tired of hearing me talk, so we'll start looking at some guitars in a sec. But I do at least want to say hi to everybody. So we got Humbucker Lover jumping in. Says hello, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Darren Moore, rock and roll, says hello, guys. Let's see some awesome collection or the new parts of it. Jack Shea Martin, Clayton Stripes, Jared Frost. He was messaged me on Facebook today. He was anxious to tune in tonight.
Jared talking back and forth today.
Yeah, and good Dream Theater chops the other night there, buddy. And the other stuff you were jamming on, that was really, really good. Single Coil Lover, who is the better half of Humbucker Lover. Love those two names. They go great together. Dak Towers jumping in. Insomniac Matt says, I changed the strings on my guitar last week. Finally got around to trying the NYXL set. I was talking to my buddy Nick today, and we were talking about the D'Addario strings. And it was funny at the time, I was praising D'Addario strings, and I was wearing an Ernie Ball, a Dunlop string shirt. So it kind of seemed hypocritical, but I wear shirts whenever they're in front of me, right? So there you go. And I don't have any D'Addario shirts. I have to mention to Rob, send me some, Rob Cunningham, send me some D'Addario shirts. I'll start wearing those. Nice. But yeah, good strings, man. And you know the funny thing about that? This isn't a plug for the strings by any means, but I've had a recent love for my really early patent pending Peavey Wolfgang. I took it out of, it's not retirement. I've never retired it, but I've been playing so much EVH brand stuff lately. And this guitar is freaking amazing. And I put NYXL strings on it about 3 months ago. Played it for a few hours. The strings sound like brand new, intonated perfectly, in tune perfectly. Amazing strings, but they're a little bit more expensive. They're Canadian. They're around $15 or $20 a set, but worth it.
So it's worth it though when you have one of those guitars and it's just like magic when you play it.
For sure. So Jared is also saying new gear is endless, but I will always spend money on what I love. For sure, exactly. Why not, man? You can't take the money with you as long as obligations are taken care of and you're happy. Nothing else could be better.
There's no U-Haul behind the hearse.
No, there isn't. There isn't. Perfect example. Look at Malcolm Young. God rest his soul. The other day, I had the guitar. His, famous Gretsch or Guild. What is it? Guild or Gretsch? I forget. Gretsch, right?
I thought it was a Gretsch.
Yeah, Gretsch. Had it at the ceremony, and Angus brought it in the case and everything, and had it propped up. It's pretty cool. So you can't take that stuff with you. You might be buried with it, but it's not going to do you any good, right?
Right.
So enjoy your life with what you can. Spanky McAllister's jumping in. Hey, Eric and Rob. Thomas Santiago echoes that same statement. Insomniac Matt says they're brighter than I was expecting. I had to take a look at the presence knob on my amp. Okay. I haven't noticed that. I know they are a little bit bright, but I haven't EQ'd anything differently on mine. Humbucker Love says, hope everyone is doing okay. Jay's Tacos and Guitars, another great channel. Have you seen his stuff?
I have. Yes, a little bit. Yeah,
I love it. I love his humor. I wish I could work in more of his humor into my stuff because I don't always like trying to be the serious guy, but I'm not a comedian, so if I can't make a joke, I'm not going to run with it, right? But he's really good. I like the way he mixes comedy and seriousness with his reviews. It's a real inspiration to me as well. Billy Shelton jumping in saying, hey, Eric and Rob. David Ennis as well, same thing. Lyle Ketchum checking in. Let me see here. Who have I missed? Mystic Star is jumping in. Mystic Star just got married, so congratulations to you. Where else? I scroll too fast sometimes. Let me see here. Dicey Explorer in the background on Rob's side. We'll take a peek at that. Jared Frost says, that's the same boat that I'm in. I've learned more from you guys than I ever have in my whole life of playing guitar. You guys have turned me into the player I am today. Well, thank you. If we can all pick up one little trick from each little show and share it with the next guy, pay it forward, that's what it's all about. So, Jared, I'm glad that a lot of the people in the circle have had, a bit of an influence on you. So that's great to hear.
Jared, we'll go back and forth during the day with like Napoleon Dynamite and Step Brothers, comments, and just he's got the same kind of sense of humor as I do. So.
Love it. Jukebox Hero says, I helped started the Roth Army. And says, David Lee Roth invited me to Cafe Wah, and I was inches away from the band. Now, that's a cool story.
That is awesome.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you for sharing it with us. And Jared Frost says, Rob and Eric need to come to Texas. And just like I was going to say to you a moment ago, I have a car I love to drive in the highway, and I have a passport that's burning a hole in my pocket. So you time and place as long as my better half is in good condition here, which is the first priority when that day comes. The open road, baby, for sure. And she's into Van Halen just as much as I am, so she'll be good company with any, and she can talk guitar with any of the guys out there. So it's pretty cool. Insomniac Matt says, okay, so before I go that, Jukebox says, I'll tag this video to David Lee Roth News Desk on Facebook. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Great.
Yeah, and so a couple of last comments. We'll jump over to some goodies here. And so Matt says, I find even with the crappy tunes on my guitar, they do stay in tune better than my old strings. And that is a testament I will 100% agree with. And, the crappy tuners, better to, so there you go. Yeah, so even something that doesn't lock, there you go. Guitar Samurai, do you guys know where to buy the amp slide locks that go on top of an EVH 5150? They keep sliding off when you tilt the amp. You should be able to get those from Fender Customer Service. I believe they might even be in the price list. You can download the retail price list. They should be listed in there. If not, just contact your local Fender Authorized Service Center, and they'll be able to get those for you for sure. And perfect. Jukebox says, I'll link some pics. So I think what we're going to do, we've got a little bit of a picture gallery. It's not a gallery by any means. We're going to show a guitar that's going to be coming up. Tell us a little bit about the one, first of all, that you were hoping to have today, and that really sucks. You're waiting for delivery day, sucks. I'm going to switch over to the big screen here so you can show it. I know it's just on your phone. Set it up before you show it. Tell people what you're waiting for, and then you can give us a picture of it.
Well, I am a big fan of any Van Halen guitar, obviously. The Kramers, the Charvels, the Franken Straps, every era. Obviously, the signature guitars, the Steinbergers, all the stuff. There's really no Van Halen guitar that I don't have an interest in. I mean, even if it's not my favorite one. Being that the EVH Wolfgang guitars, incredible guitars. I own 2 of them right now. I've owned a few more in the past, but I've had to sell a couple to get the ones that I really wanted.
Sure.
I don't think there's any denying that the mother of all the signature guitars would be the Ernie Music Man. I mean, that's where it all started for the signature line. Mm-hmm. And they've progressed to the Peaveys and now the EVH brand, which is continuing to evolve, yeah, and do great. I have a Ernie Ball Music Man EVH model, an amber one, which I'll show in a little while. And I've had a number of EVH models and the Axis. But one guitar that I've owned a couple of over the years, and I've gotten rid of them, but I happened to find a really good deal on this one, is an Ernie Ball Music Man Axis EX. Okay. And the EX guitars, for those of you that don't know them, they're a real Ernie Ball Music Man Axis, but they're in the Eddie Van Halen EVH style where the toggle switch is located where the EVH was. And it doesn't say Axis on the headstock. It just, like Eddie's original one, just says Ernie Ball Music Man. It doesn't say anything. There's some speculation over those guitars, where the parts came from. I'm still under the belief that they're leftover bodies and necks from when Music Man stopped making that in '95. I think the last EVH rolled out the door in September, and then they had some leftover parts. They also say that the bodies on the EXs are a little bit thinner of a veneer top, which really doesn't, it's still a maple top, but the tops on them are just incredible. They have crazy quilts on them. So anyways, I was able to find overseas a green trans quilt top Ernie Ball Music Man Axis EX.
Nice.
The last couple of weeks I've been waiting for it to show up, and it was supposed to come today, but got delayed a little bit, so hopefully it'll be here tomorrow.
Isn't that the worst thing ever when we're waiting on a new piece of gear? It's like, I mean, if you ordered, let's say, something from China, or, let's say you need some kind of cable for your TV or something, it shows up, you forgot you've even ordered it. It's like, oh yeah, awesome, sweet. Then you get something you really, really want. It's like, waiting for Santa Claus to go across, it's like he got delayed, man. It's like, oh, come on. So I feel your pain. Or whatever, it's like. Yeah, I feel your pain.
Oh, it's crazy, but it'll be here. But this is actually what it's going to look like. It's that is the guitar right there. So it's a green quilt top.
Absolutely beautiful, and a matching cap on the headstock as well.
Yeah, it's got a matching cap, and I'll actually show you a picture of the headstock.
Good. Yeah, I was going to ask, is it quilted on the headstock too?
It is. Yeah, it is. Maybe a little bit of fading. Yeah. Because the guitar is probably 15, 16, 20 plus years old, or give or take a little bit. But it's looks like it's got a great quilt on it. So I'm really, really excited to get that. Since we're talking about guitars that aren't here. Yep. There's also a guitar that's my good friend Chris is doing for me. It's the Red Cloud Ripley.
Yeah. I'm going to switch over to another camera angle for a second. I've got the picture that you sent me. Let me. You won't be able to see it, but the audience will. So there we are. So I'll just describe it. You know what the picture is. You sent it to me, but it's sitting on top of an EVH stealth head. Laying sideways. Just a neck on the body. Tell us a little about what's happening with this guitar.
That guitar was one that David Allen Wright was doing a lot of discussion on Facebook, and it's always been a guitar that I really like. It looks like a bowling ball, like it's cloud. It's like a red bowling ball. It's a Kramer Ripley guitar. It's a stereo guitar. Mine is it's a Chris Lock body, and it's a neck from Scott Smith. Okay. So the Musicraft Lock combo always works out very well. So all the holes have been drilled and the routes are exact. Everything is perfect. It's a Holy Grail neck, and everything fits in perfectly. It's just that I don't have the hardware, the actual Ripley electronics, so it won't be a true Ripley until one day either I can get some stuff from Steve Ripley or to acquire the right parts. So I do have the stereo knobs, the mixing knobs and everything, but they're just going to be basically just screwed in from the bottom. They won't be wired to anything. So it'll have a Bartolini pickup. But it'll basically just be a one knob, one pickup guitar, but it'll have all the bells and whistles for the cosmetics to look like the real Ripley. The logos will be there and everything. And then one day I hope to make it into a real Ripley. I know my friend Dave has a real Ripley, and a couple of other friends of mine have them, and they are really, really cool guitars. But you have to have the right kind of setup in order to really experience the pinging, stereo effects for each string.
Yeah, you can actually pan the spectrum fully, like from both high to low string.
Right. So one day I'll have it wired up that way, but right now it'll be more of just it'll be like a Kramer Beretta.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cosmetics of what the cloud really look like.
The nice thing is you can circle back to it when you get the Ripley, the true Ripley parts for as far as the electronics. Pop it in. Until then, you got a player. It's going to look good, sound good. So that's awesome. And I've always liked that bowling ball look for sure. And that's a very iconic photo too. When you saw Eddie, I think he was wearing like the gray track pants, the plaid type of shirt, long shirt, cigarette in hand. Yeah, that's it. Right back there. I know I saw it earlier today on your wall. That's perfect. That's a famous photo we all are aware of. Yeah.
So the music manual should be in tomorrow. The Red Cloud should be probably arriving here next week. And the only other project that I have that'll be coming up around Christmas time is going to be the yellow and black striped Kramer double neck from the Diver Down era.
You were telling me that. That's going to be great. Another iconic guitar. Yeah.
So again, Chris Locke's doing the body. Got one of the necks from Scott, and have an extra beak neck right over here. So all the parts, and we had to kind of get a little crazy with the hardware. I mean, it looks like Eddie was running a Schaller Badass bridge for 12 string. So got one of those coming in. So trying to acquire the hardware. So that'll be should be arriving around Christmas time. And that has been a guitar I've wanted to do since day one.
Yeah.
And never knew how to do it because nobody made the bodies. It was just too difficult of a project. Now Scott has one, and a couple of other folks have done them. But that dream finally came into fruition about a month ago. Chris and I decided we're both going to do one, so we got a hold of Chris Locke, and he's like, "Yep." He's like, "I got the spec," so that'll be a fun one.
It's almost like a hodgepodge of old classic BC Rich, and I don't know what else. And here's a question I was going to ask you. So you answered my question right there. Was one of the guitars that you've wanted to acquire or build your entire life, and that answers that question. So without having the aluminum headstock on the top neck, would it be something that you're going to build to look like that and possibly paint chromish? Or
actually, the actual builder of that guitar was Paul Unkert. And when I met Paul last year, when I went out to visit my friends out in New York, we actually took Paul out to dinner, went to his house, went to his shop. There's pictures of me with my Steinberger and my Neptune guitar here. Paul actually stamped the back of the headstock. And
yeah, I think I saw some of that stuff. Yeah.
It was great seeing the guy that actually built Eddie's original Kramer guitars and actually striped them too. Such a cool guy. And I still talk to Paul a lot. He built that original guitar. So the neck that would be the aluminum fork neck actually will on the replica that I'm doing. It's not going to be a real aluminum neck, but it is a Paul Unkert neck.
Okay.
One of the fork necks, but it's wood. So I'm going to paint the headstock to look like it's aluminum, but it'll really just be a wood neck.
That's okay. It'll look good though.
It'll look exactly the part, but it'll be a wood neck, and the cool part of it'll be one of Paul's necks. It'll be an Unk neck. So it'll be, even though it's not aluminum, it's from the guy that made the real one for it.
Yep. That's to me. That's like the same as the man landing on the moon. Neil Armstrong or whoever. It's like I was the guy who made his boots. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool. It's neat to have those connections. I mean, some of these connections I never thought I'd have.
Yeah, it's all from the sharing. It's from the circle, and sharing, and eventually, like these guys like the Paul Unkerts and all these other people out there are like, oh yeah, Rob Johnson, I've seen your stuff. I see you collect, and because it gets shared a lot, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We as kids growing up, we probably never would have dreamed we would have made connections with some of these people, and look where we are today. We're very blessed with it.
I know it.
I love it.
So much fun. Such a good time. It's great.
There's a question in the chat, and I'm going to just take this out of order here. I'm going to come back in a few minutes after we start looking at the rest of your gear. But my friend Brad asked, let me see, where was it? He was asking kind of the price. Would you be able to give him an idea of, you don't have to say necessarily what you paid for that guitar, but what's a common asking price for those guitars, and what could a person expect? Maybe let's start just a little higher. If you can find the Eddie Van Halen signature one, what are they going for roughly on a good day? What could you expect to get on a good deal? And then the one that you got, what are they going for on a good day, and what is a good and bad price on something like that? So let's start with the higher one first.
talk about the Music Man's
Yeah,
era.
yeah.
Well, I mean, the Eddie Van Halen, and you can find them on eBay and Reverb pretty much all day long. They still have them. They're out there. I mean, a really good quality, good condition, minimal fading, because the Music Man's, the EVHs had the dye that they were using on the tops was very prone to fading in the first few years, with the 91 up to about 93. Around 93, they started figuring it out. So your 93, 94s, 95s, they weren't quite so plagued with the fading that the earlier ones did. And a lot of it was how you took care of it and if they were case queens or not. But as far as price is concerned, you can pretty much, on the high end, you're looking at probably around 3,000, 3,300, but you can still find decent ones for probably 26, 27.
Okay, I was gonna say 25, so I was a little low. So yeah, 26, 27.
And you can even find them a little bit. I've even seen them over the last few weeks down around 22, 23. But then those are players. Those are heavy players.
Yeah.
I lucked out. I mean, I've owned 2 quilt top blue original Eddie Van Halens over the last 6 years, and I think those were both in the like 25, 26 range. I don't own them anymore. But my amber one, I think, was about 24.
Okay.
And that's really good quality guitar. So those are probably about where they come in. Now the Axis EXs. It's ironic because they cost less than the Axis guitars for whatever reason, because they're basically, you have to go to Japan to actually find them. I mean, I forget the name of the company out there. Molly would know, but I can't remember the name of it, but it doesn't really matter. Those are going for around about $1,000.
Okay.
You can see them go. I've seen them from 800, and I've seen them up to about 1,300. But they're usually leveling out, balancing out around about $1,000, 1,100. And they're basically Eddie Van Halen guitars. They are real Music Man guitars, the same exact neck plates. Hardware is the same. The Godot Music Man Floyds, Schaller tuners. The only difference is it doesn't say Axis on the headstock, and it doesn't say the stamp and built in California on the back. And the toggle switch is where Eddie's was.
Now here's a question: whether the person that's selling these used obviously decides to give you the case that he has or she has with it. Music Man's always been known to give those really nice cases, and even the EVH brand is kind of modeled after that. Does it come with a case in most cases?
I know some of them do. Yes, the one that I got does not.
Okay.
I got it
cheaper price, maybe.
Second owner, private sale.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of them do come with cases. As a matter of fact, the last EX that I owned was an amber one, an amber quilt, and it had a crazy quilt on it. I mean, the top was just incredible. And that actually did come with a real Music Man hard shell case.
Nice. Yeah, they're beautiful cases when you do get them.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, they're great guitars. They're the Marzio pickups. They're like the Tone Zone pups, the same exact ones they use. The hardware is exactly the same. They say the necks are a little bit thinner than what the Axis necks are.
Okay.
So they're a little bit more, Van Halen-ish.
Yeah.
To the signature, which it's kind of ironic because they're basically copies of the EVH signature model, but they're so much cheaper.
Yeah. Good price all day long, and that's not out of reach for most guitar players that want that's a pro level guitar, and do whatever they want with it for sure. So.
And you really can't even call it a copy or a replica because it's really a true Music Man Axis guitar.
That's right.
So it's not even really a replica. It's the real deal.
That's right. So people that missed out on the boat the first time around and don't have a spare, $2,500, $3,000, in reserve there, it's a guitar they can get a couple of those and still be under that, cusp of the Ernie Ball Music Man Eddie Van Halen model. Yeah, and if you're you hate to say it, but if you really want to have an accurate Ernie Ball Music Man like Eddie's original quilt top amber, get an EX because it doesn't have the signature on the headstock, and neither did Eddie's original. Yeah. So you put 150 stickers on, turn the neck pickup around, and boom. You got it. You go. I love it. That's fantastic. So that answers the question over there in the chat. We'll come back to the chat and ask or answer some more questions from over there. But let's, if you're able to do a little bit of a panoramic, I'm going to switch over to your big camera here and just let's go through some of the goodies that you've got there in no particular order. Whatever you want to start with, the floor is yours. All right. Well, I apologize for my video here because I have to turn my laptop around. That's okay. But, this is the Steinberger GL2T Trans-Trem guitar. Real deal. It's the real deal. It's a 1985 Newberg guitar with an updated trans trem on it.
Here is my little mini Les Paul, which started out as a Lotus guitar, cheap $75 guitar. I added the block inlay stickers and custom cut the pickguard myself and threw some different pups in there and ripped out 2 knobs and filled them so
nice.
Looks the part. And this would be the Kramer ad guitar, and it's got the real true Walker body and headstock. Has the gold crown heads. And I'll turn this one around just so you can kind of see the back. Has #1 Eddie Van Halen model on the back.
The same font. That's great.
Kind of hard to nail the back of the paint job of that guitar because there's not a lot of pictures floating around on it, but as far as we can tell, that is pretty accurate.
Yep.
This is an EVH 78 VH1. However, I sanded off the EVH and put the Gibson on with a pencil just to make it look a little bit more accurate.
I like it. That's good.
VH1 strap. Roughed up the pickguard a little bit and stuck a black D-tune on it. Now, I used to own a real true accurate VH1 guitar, but I no longer have that. I wanted to get the EVH. This is the Kramer Neptune guitar, which is the famous story with Eddie. Paul painted it red and white and then went out to lunch, and Eddie came in and sprayed paint all over, black paint all over it, and it ran and dripped all over the place. So that was a kind of a fun replica to do.
Kind of hurt Paul's feelings on that one too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's the Franken Strap. I've built many of these over the years, but this is probably one of my favorites. It came out really nice. That's a Scott Smith Musicraft neck. It has the chrome chevron Godos on it. A lot of people miss that when they build the Franken Strats. They think they're Schallers. They were Schallers when they were on the black and white, but they're actually crown heads on the real Frankie. Now that's how you could tell the Frankie from a replica.
That's my favorite era there too. As much as I would like a beak neck Frankie or a banana, that's the era of that guitar that just means a lot to me. So if I was to build one or have one, that's what I would go with. You
kind of have to have it, and I've had the banana neck on it like that and the beak neck, but you kind of have to keep that on. This is the Hot for Teacher guitar. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yep, see it very good. Yeah.
Has all the wear marks. Chris and I did this one back over the summer. We added all the wears. This was a real fun one to do. The Ibanez Sharp Destroyer. This is not a phone copy. This is actually a real true custom one-piece guitar. So it's the neck and the body is joined together. Custom did that one, so you'll see the route it's not like an Epiphone route. It's actually the correct route. This is an old Dive Bomb Kyle Finch guitar that I got. You'll notice it has the harmonica style bridge in it. Okay. This is my black and yellow Bumblebee. As you can tell, it is an EVH. But I sanded the logo off the headstock because I'm probably going to paint the headstock black eventually.
Nice.
And probably make it look a little bit more, that era right there, like Eddie's.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of relicking on it, just for some of the wear marks that Eddie had. He had some little wear marks in the top, so it's always fun, destroying a guitar after you get into the factory.
I know, a brand new guitar.
This is the Kramer 918V, which is a backup 5150 style guitar from the 5150 tour. This one did actually have a maple neck with a pointy headstock. This is the Rasta guitar, which used to be the Circles guitar from the Unchained. This was a fun one. This one was done by Jerry Leica.
Okay.
Yeah. Did a great job on it. This is just an old body I had laying around. You'll see why. I used to have a replica of this guitar, but I actually was able to acquire the real deal Pacer, and I didn't want to put the tape on it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of made this one look like the multicolored tape guitar.
Yep.
Here's my 5150 Kramer. Probably my absolute all-time favorite guitar. I dirtied the neck up a couple weekends ago and tried to make it look pretty realistic.
That's my favorite. I think that's most people's one of their favorite guitars.
Oh, I absolutely love it. Absolutely love
it. I think just because it spanned the career for so long.
Those are the new EVH stickers. I had to update them.
Oh, that's good. Fantastic. Van Halen store?
Yes. So this is the 1984 Kramer, which I just recently repainted about a week and a half ago. Used the Chevy Orange red. tried to nail the overspray and put a little bit of the relicking on the 2 stars on top of the horn. Now this guitar, if you see it, like here, during the 86 tour, Eddie had a different neck on it. Mm-hmm. This neck was originally on this guitar, but at the time when he used it in the 1984 tour, it had a gold chrome Floyd on it with a chrome nut. And then Eddie took this neck off with the 2 stars and he put it on the body, which looked like the Hot for Teacher body, and they donated it to the Hot Rod Cafe. And put the other neck on, which looked like the 5150 neck.
Okay. Your mic is cutting out just a little bit, Rob.
Oh, is that any better?
Yeah, that's better now. Yep.
I put the 5150 era neck on,
mm-hmm.
but I always liked this particular combination. I liked this neck with the black hardwood. Now we used this guitar in the 5150 tour for Good Enough, and you'll notice
the bass string.
A bass string. I put an A bass string on mine, so you get that real.
Yeah.
You get that real low thump when you play that song.
Love that.
Yeah, great. This is the Circles guitar. It's the EVH model, although I did a little bit of tweaking to mine to make the tadpoles look a little bit more accurate.
Cool. A little rougher, right?
Yeah, a little bit more character to it. Mm-hmm. Again, a great guitar. This is my Rude guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you to Scott for sending me this neck, because if you guys ever remember the Fair Warning era, had this Dan Electro style neck.
Now, that neck right there, too, was that not on the Frankie? That was on the Frankie at one time on the Brian May Starfleet era, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And they also had this neck on in the warm-up stages of the US Festival.
Okay.
Yep. And then he took it off and he put the beak neck on. Neck. I always thought this neck was kind of cool for this particular guitar.
Yeah, it is.
During the portion of the Fair Warning tour. So I put that on today, as a matter of fact. This is my Star guitar. EVH model. I had a custom one that I did before, which I really liked, but I had to upgrade it for the EVH model. And I kind of did what Eddie did. I put the titanium blocks on and a red deep on it like Eddie did.
Yeah, I kind of like how you've got the photo behind, too, of each guitar, him playing it. That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the photos in as much as I can. You know,
I like that.
Here's the Red Cloud, which will be coming. There's the double neck.
Yes.
And then some kind of cool posters. There's a stripe.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I've seen those before. Those are cool.
The original Kramer poster.
Yeah, famous one.
Stuff here.
Flying Eddies.
Yeah. Now this guitar here is really cool. I was able to acquire this, and Adam Reaver really, really liked this. This is an original 1981, early 82 purple Kramer Pacer, exactly like this one that Eddie played with Alan Holdsworth at the Roxy,
mm-hmm.
which then became this guitar. And as you can see in the picture back here.
Now, what was the story with the tape on the logo of the headstock on that one?
I don't think he had an endorsement deal officially with Kramer yet.
Okay.
I don't think he's officially been playing the Kramers yet. We were trying to find it. Now, this has the original locking on it.
Okay.
It's supposedly going to be the Eddie Van Halen model, and then Floyd came out with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's in really good shape.
Oh, it's literally mint shape. Guitar. It has the lawsuit era Strat headstock, and you can notice original gold Godot crown heads. I was showing this to Adam and Scott at the EVH Con, and they said, I am the only one that they've ever seen, other than Eddie, that actually has this exact guitar in purple like Ed's.
Wow.
Yeah. One of my Chinese copy Les Pauls.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a great little guitar. Fender Strat, it's a Mexican Strat.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a really neat guitar, one of my favorites, an old
Farrington.
Kramer Farrington.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, it's a great guitar. I actually really like that guitar a lot.
I
head over to the... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of the electric guys like those because they could hop on an acoustic and still kind of wail on it and not have to be, kind of pampering their fingers and everything.
Yeah, I always wished I learned on an acoustic, but I never did. And, so my fingers aren't as strong as I wish they were. So
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of cheat on that one a little better, So I have an Ernie ball strap here, the Eddie dog clip on it.
Mm-hmm.
The Peavey Wolfgang strap with a dog clip, and then of course the EVH one with the brass dog clips on it. 5150 hat. And here is my original Eddie Van Halen Music Man Amber.
Beautiful.
I love this guitar. It's really, really cool. Now mine has the logo on the headstock. It is, the real deal. Here's my pound cake drill, which does work.
Nice.
There's an empty spot here. I think there's supposed to be a green guitar going there. What do you think?
That's going to be great.
And as you can tell, I have a tone knob ready to go with 2 eyelets right here, all ready to go to replace it when they come in.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah. This is a really cool guitar that I got from Chris over the last summer.
Sustainer?
It's a Peavey Wolfgang Special Deluxe with the Fernandez Sustainer.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting hardware he had when he was trying to keep his cables out of the way. It's kind of a combination of what he used in the 98 tour.
Yep.
What he had the mic clips piece sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
And the 04 tour where he had this little, the carabiner off the back.
A lot of people, if they don't recognize that guitar, if you watch any of the live footage, which is some really good bootlegs, professional shot too of that tour, and Eddie would use that guitar a lot during the Year to the Day extended solo, and he'd do some really crazy stuff with the Sustainer.
That's amazing. I love the Sustainer. It's such a cool. Here is my original Peavey Wolfgang. This is a patent pending guitar that has the incredible bird's eye on the
You can
neck.
see
This
that.
is one
Yeah.
of the Peavey Wolfgangs you were talking about, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most amazing playing ones I've ever had.
That's your purple one? Is that? Yeah, that's the purple. That breaks my heart because I had that same era, same model, same year, everything.
Oh yeah, I love it. It's such a cool guitar. It's one of my. I don't think I'd ever get rid of this one again. I love those purples. They're crazy.
They are.
This is a real so it's the real deal. It's a 2016.
Mm-hmm.
The head was chipped, and kill switch on just like Ed's. And I don't know if you can tell checking on the guitar. Some of them exactly like Chip did on the originals. Really, really cool guitar. Again, has the custom kill switch. And this was a Mexican Wolfgang EVH Special that I switched necks on. This is actually had a maple neck on it, but I purchased this ebony neck with stainless frets, and I put the dot block inlay stickers on, which actually worked really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Repainted the headstock and painted a cream binding on it. Repainted the body to make it look more matte. This was the original color, and as you can tell, there's a cream binding on it as well. And this also has a kill switch, which I put in, which is not quite accurate to Eddie's because Eddie's did not have that. But I put the kill switch in before I knew I was going to make it look like this. I was going to leave the black binding on it.
Mm-hmm.
I put the black Floyd back on, added the stainless screws with a chrome bar and titanium blocks to make it look kind of like what Eddie did when he played it in 2012 tour.
Love it.
And my rig, right now, I used to have a little bit bigger of a rig. I have the EVH 5150 1x12 combo, which is a great little amp, with a little 1x12 cab, which I run. So it's basically a 212. And then to make it a wet-dry-wet system, what I have is I have a Peavey Wolfgang. I have a Peavey 5150 combo, which I custom striped the board behind the grate.
Looks nice.
So that has a delay going through it from a Boss DD3. And then I have this little Marshall, which I threw a little EVH sticker on it, tag on it from one of my cases.
Nice.
And because this has a separate delay itself built in effects, this has a separate delay, a little bit faster of a delay. And then I can use a wet signal with a delay out of the 5150 combo. And I'm getting a wet signal with a separate delay. So I get the stereo Pong effect. And then the middle amp, which is powering both of them because they're both set to clean channels, is dry. So it's a true wet, dry, wet setup. And then my board is just small. As you can tell, it's very tiny, but I'm running an EVH wah super octave EVH flanger, EVH phase 90, and a Boss NS2 noise suppressor.
It's almost identical to mine, exactly.
You know, and this for living in an apartment, this isn't really a bad little setup for me.
Not at all. Not at all.
Pretty well. I mean, I've downgraded my amp setup over the last couple years. I used to have a nice little 50-watt head, and I've owned many Peavey 5150 combos over the years. I think what I'd like to do over the next year, when I get a little bit of extra cash, probably make it look a little aesthetically better. I'm going to get another Peavey 5150 combo, probably stripe the board black and white. So, and I'll put that on either side. Ditch the 1x12 cab, just keep it as a separate cab. Get rid of the little Marshall I have here, the little practice amp. Pick up one of those Eventide time factors, and then I'll run a separate delay to both amps, and then keep the middle one dry again. So it'll look a little bit better, but it'll be a little bit better setup, and I can have all the presets in there versus having to switch knobs, you know.
Yeah, that'd be nice. You have your favorites. You can go anything from a cathedral to, you know, all kinds of different delays and stuff like that as well, too. Real ambiance for sure. I've just been experimenting myself with running I'm using the Line 6 Helix a lot now for my main rig, and I want to go back to using my pedals. So I've discovered some of the patches to do like the Lexicons and all those kind of things, and the Roland SDE 3000s, running them actually into the actual Helix for the effects loop on that. And holy cow, you want to hear some real stereo spectrum. You just get lost in it. It's nice.
That's crazy.
I love it.
I pretty much think that's pretty much the setup. Of course, you know, Eddie graces my presence every day. He stays in the corner.
I had one of those cutouts as well too, and I don't have it anymore. Yeah, they're cool. And he had the one with the long hair too.
Actually, I've had that since '96.
Yeah, they're awesome, and they go for a fortune to find them too. And then the shipping is kind of awkward on them too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's jump over the chat for a quick second. We got probably about 15 more minutes of the program, and then we're going to come back. I want to ask you a little bit about, you know, how you've been into martial arts since you said first kind of thing, and then some of your firearms and maybe some stigmas that we can kind of debunk any myths about, you know, being afraid of weapons, and if you are afraid of weapons, what you can do to kind of learn a little bit about them and some safety. So Jukebox Hero was saying Eddie's Bumblebee is buried with Dimebag. That's class. And Jared says, yes, Jukebox, he's buried here in Dallas, and he wished he had a chance to go to the funeral. Mystic saying hi to Jared. Let me see here. And Jukebox says, remember when someone vandalized Dimebag's grave? Very sacrilegious for sure. Let me see here. Scroll down a little bit more. Jared says green is rare, looks beautiful. That's gonna be a nice guitar. So I asked a question about the price of that guitar. Spanky McAllister saying loves a Ripley, he wants one, and he says who painted it. No, you don't have to necessarily say again. Or if you're at liberty to say who painted it, you're more than welcome to say who painted it. Or if it's something you prefer not to, no problem. You can answer that.
My good friend Chris Hubbard painted it. He did one for himself about 6 months ago, and then I liked his so much I said, all right, do one for me. Yeah. So I ordered the body and the neck, and he took care of it.
One thing I have to say about him, when it comes to the guitars, he can do them in a short duration of time. I mean, it's not short, but I mean, he can do them in a short duration of time, and they're very authentic. So
it's amazing. I mean, you know, and just real quick, speaking of that, I mean, he hasn't even been doing this for very long. He's an incredible guitar player, but
natural at it.
I mean, he's like you. He's just phenomenal. And I mean, I've learned so much. He's come to visit me twice now. And great family, great kids, and wife is Alex, is a wonderful lady. But his technique on painting, I've actually learned a lot from him from this. And he's a big fan of using the Duplicolor paint, which is an automotive paint, which is a lot closer to what than the Krylon stuff that a lot of us used to use. And his technique in painting is just phenomenal.
That's a little.
He's the one that relicked this guitar.
Yeah.
He just did all the work to this.
And that's damn good.
Yeah, it's a great guitar. It really is so much fun to play.
You can't say anything bad about his work, that's for sure. Rocamp56 says, good evening, Eric and Rob. Great show. Thanks, Rob, for sharing it. And I echo that as well, too. Yeah, thank you, Rob, for sharing the collection with us. And Jared says, I really want a shark guitar. I don't know why, but I love that guitar. But I love that guitar. Let me see here. Brad says he's lucky. He's got a natural finish with zero fading, so that's cool. And he's talking about the Ernie ball. I've seen that one. I think that's the one I'm thinking of. I think he's got some. Maybe it's the EVH he's got. I know. Yeah, it's an EVH he's got that. It's got some real rough sanding on the edges just from wear from playing. Let me see here. Bruce is jumping in saying hello, evhgear TV, and Rob Johnson. Oh yeah, and his Brad's is a 95 model EVH. Yeah, Ernie Ball Music Man. Yeah. Tubin says Ishibashi music.
Yeah, they Ichibashi. My older EX I got from them.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and this one that I'm getting might have originally come from them. They were a big name. Kanda Shokai, I think, is the name that I was thinking of. Kanda Shokai is like an Ichibashi over in Japan, and both of those companies, you'll find them in the Young Guitar magazines.
Yeah.
The Younger or the Player magazines. I have a big collection of those, the Eddie Van Halen style mags from Japan. And Ishibashi and Kanda Shokai are the big names.
Okay, there you go. Perfect. Tactical Six String says waiting on a guitar. Yeah, we all know what that is like, and it's a pain. Jukebox here says got to go. Hope you get traffic. I spread the word. Thank you. I appreciate that. Every little bit helps. Anybody that wants to share this content, you don't have to ask for my permission. Please do. I'd love you forever if you do share it. Let me see here. Here's a question for you. Why from Brad? Why did Eddie turn the Music Man pickup around? Actually, I've done the exact same thing on one of my Peaveys as well. But you tell the story on that.
Well, actually, I didn't just do it on the Music Man. I also did it on this one. A lot of people can't tell, and I did it on this one just for the heck of it, just to make it a little different.
Yep.
I did it just to make it look like Eddie's, because I try to make my guitars as exact as possible to Eddie's. So it's more of a cosmetic thing for me. However, from what I understand, and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you might have a little bit more of the technical answer on this, but I have noticed a difference. I noticed and I think Eddie's motive on this was to change the sound a little bit. I think in his infinite
tone chasing,
just of constantly chasing tone, he said, I wonder what happens if I go swap the pickup around. And I think it gave him a little bit more of a treble bleed, a little bit more trebly of a sound. That's what I noticed on it when I did that. Is that what you noticed also when you've done that? I
didn't notice anything, and here's what it is. Here's what I think it is. I think when it comes to Eddie, sometimes, and this is on my Peavey, so it's a different pickup again here too, which is a nice pickup as well. I think with Eddie, sometimes it's almost like that placebo effect. If someone says this is a pill that's gonna take away your headache, and it's just a sugar cube, and you take it and you're like, yeah, my headache's gone. So sometimes when you think in your head, it might change. And no, it very well could have changed the tone for him, but I think sometimes it could be a placebo effect. And
sure.
I like to tell the story on mine because I like to say, yeah, I changed it to look like Eddie's on my Peavey Wolfgang. I've got chrome pickup rings around it that are just there for decoration, and I've got the reverse pickups. And people are like, oh yeah, you did it to look like Eddie Van Halen, whatever. I'm like, yeah. And actually, the honest story, and I'm not afraid to say it, put everything back together in my rush state. I put it in by accident, and you know what? Screw it. It looks good. I left it. I wasn't gonna take that guitar apart again. It had been apart so many times, and it's back together. And I'm gonna do a live broadcast on that sometime soon in the next few days. I'm gonna go live and play some of my old music with that guitar and show how nice it sounds, and people will get to see it. So it was an accident, and sometimes great accidents spawn great things, right?
Absolutely. It's funny. You talk about the placebo effect, and watching the show you did last week with Chris, and he was giving that story of Eddie, with bringing the amp out, and it sounded different in here and in here. Why is it? They're just pulling their hair out. What the heck's going on? And it was a voltage thing. The guy's ear is so good. He can pick up on that. I mean, it's insane that man's sense of tone is just so dialed in to, like, us mere mortals just couldn't hear it.
That's right.
I did believe I heard a little bit of a difference when I swapped the pickup, but it could have been a different change in the amp. It might be nothing, really.
You never know. You never know. There could be. And if for those that don't know what Rob's referring to, Chris Cannella was on the show last week, and Eddie was recording in the studio using the 5150 amp. And I think it might have been the first gen. I think he was talking about. Maybe not. I forget which 5150 he was talking about. Could have been. I think he was talking about like the white one, like mine back there, and first gen of the new series. And Eddie was getting a tone he wasn't liking. He called Mike Ulrich, who is the original chief engineer, and Chris out to 5150. They go out there, and they were thinking, okay, what's going on? And there is a 1.5 volt difference between the floor in one room and another room. And they brought it up to another room. Eddie's like, oh, this sounds great. What did you do? And they'd like to take credit for it. They're like, but we didn't do anything, Eddie. We just moved it from room. So it goes to show you, when he says he can hear things, sometimes you read these things in magazines, you think like, what? It's true. It's the ears are magic for sure. So I'll continue down real quick in the rest of the chat. Let me see here. Steve Anderson's jumping in, saying Steve Anderson is in the house. Everyone's saying hi to him. Jared Frost saying freaking sweet setup and guitars. Michael Smith joining, saying I love the Steinberger guitar. Would love to play it the next time I'm back east. Hint, hint, Robbie says. And, oh, thank you. It says, Steve Anderson says 26 thumbs up for me. Thank you very much for not only watching, but thumbing up. It's great. And FNAF Gamers, one of our younger fans, he says, first thing I see when I click the stream is a bunch of striped guitars. And the first thing I'm thinking, okay, this guy is truly a fan. I'm just, I love it. So unless anyone has a particular question, I'm just going to kind of say hi to most of these people. Jesus Hernandez is jumping in saying, love your show. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let me see here. Tactical Bobby Lopez, please ask him how we painted the cream binding, Eric. Thank you. You want to share that quick tip?
Excuse me. Yes. Actually, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, this guitar had black binding, and basically all I did is remove the neck, took the hardware off, taped up the pickups. There was really no reason to take them out. Because the binding was going to be an addition to the paint, had to kind of sand and kind of rough up the entire body, even though it was still going to be the same color. But I wanted it to be like a matte, like a more of a satin stealth look. So I actually, it's kind of looks just like a red stealth now. It's a much more matte finish than it was before. So basically roughed up the finish, and then just took tape and went around, tried to widen it a little bit, because the specials don't have the fatter binding as much. They're a little bit thinner. So I wanted to make it look more like a USA model. So taped off around, all the way around the whole perimeter of the guitar. And then on this edge, just kind of widened it a little bit. Again, kind of had to go a little piece by piece by piece, especially when you're coming around the corners here. It's tricky on Wolfgangs. And then taped everything off on the front, hung it up, and took it outside. It was the end of August when we did it, and used Wimbledon white Duplicolor paint, and just went over and used about a whole can on it. And let it dry. And then basically went over the entire body, because we didn't take the red off, just roughed it up. Went over the entire body with a clear coat matte to give it a stealth look. Yeah. And it's about a whole can of clear coat. And what that did is that sealed the binding down the white, Wimbledon white over the black, and basically sealed the whole guitar, so you really can't even feel it. And it came out great, and basically did the exact same thing with the headstock. It was the same.
That's phenomenal. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it came out cool. And it would be really cool if EVH released a model like that. I know. Because I've had so many people say, whoa, that is such a cool, I wish EVH released that. Who knows, maybe one day they will.
That's right. Let me see. Hubbard Vivo says, too many guitars, Rob. Slow down, bro. Rock on, Eric and Rob. Love it.
That's 23 years worth of building these things. So
yeah. Here's a question I think I know the answer to. John Conklin saying, whatever happened to Robert Rex Jackson from the VHML days? I think I have him on Instagram. He's building pedals and stuff, isn't he?
Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a long time, but I think he's still around. Yeah,
he's as far as I know, unless I'm confusing him, because I remember him very well from the day. And he's building pedals. I think he's got his own little kind of boutique line of pedals out there. I've seen really cool things. Let me see if there's any other questions. And I have to apologize, guys, because we will be wrapping up here shortly. It's one of these things where I could go all night with the show, but I always like people wanting more, so I do like to try to keep it to a bit of a schedule. And it's not like I'm trying to be a jerk by cutting things short. I just always want you guys wanting more, so that's why we'll be wrapping up shortly. And believe it or not, I'm a little sick. I was sick like crazy. That's why I took a month off, and the family was sick. And it's trying to work its way back into this house again. And I'm like, I want to raise two fingers and say, you're not getting me. And I told Rob before the show I was a little ill, so I'm fighting it. It's not getting me, but we got to keep healthy here for sure. So everyone's saying kind of some good comments in the chat. I want to turn it over, and I apologize. We're going to spend less time on this than I wanted, but this is a really important thing too, because what you do with martial arts, which you started on before guitar and things like that, has helped you, a positive mindset, great physical mindset. Tell us a little bit about how you got into martial arts and what it's done for you over the years and how far you've taken it.
Sure. Martial arts for me was, I'll be the first one to admit, I saw Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme back in 1988, and I was like, I want to do that. And at the time, I kind of looked just like him. I had the sideways brown hair and wasn't quite in the same shape that he was. But I saw the helicopter kicks and all this crazy stuff, and I said, I want to do that. And I had been boxing for a couple of years, taking boxing lessons at the Y, and I was always a fitness guy. I was 15, and I'd been playing sports in high school and everything, or middle school, I should say. And I met my sensei, Shihan Lepore, who I still refer to him as Shihan. And I've trained with many teachers over the years and done a lot of traveling over the years, mostly up and down the East Coast for martial arts. I've traveled the whole country for tactical firearm stuff, but for martial arts, mostly up and down the East Coast. Did a lot of tournaments back in the old fighting days and stuff. But my original teacher, Shihan Lepore, who's a 7th Dan, 67 years old, to this day is still he's like a father to me. And I took my first lesson with him, and I still train with him twice a week to keep my studies up. Started training with him and doing some Taekwondo, and which is a Korean style martial art, Taekwondo. A lot of people are familiar with that. Mm-hmm. Trained in Taekwondo for about 5 years. Got my Shodan, my first Dan, in 1994, April 9th of 1994. And right at that time, Sensei, my teacher, went back to his roots, which was Shotokan karate in the Bugei style, the Japanese style, and started training in Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, which is like the father of Aikido, a lot harder. Instead of nice, easy throws, they're hard throws, and you break the arm on the way down, real hard throws. Traditional weaponry, the katanas, the Manriki Gasari, the nunchakus, the sais, the jo staff, all the fun weapons. So dabbled in Aiki Jiu-Jitsu and switched over to Karate Do, Karate, which is empty hand art, the Japanese style. Also in that, met another teacher who was training us in Shinobi Jitsu, which is ninjutsu, okay. From the Kobaru style. So did all the stealth techniques and stuff. And you got to understand, at this time, I'm 21 years old, and I am just in heaven.
I can imagine.
I want to play guitar, but I'm doing all this crazy stuff, and it's just so much fun. But what I learned in the martial arts was, as fun as the techniques were, and as much of a balance it is, it became a way of life. It became something that not only kept me in shape physically and mentally, but it gave me a purpose. It made me a better human being. It made me, gave me a level of compassion. And when you train in something that's inherently dangerous with techniques that are for maiming and killing, because martial arts was no doubt about it. It's for discipline and it's for, a good purpose. But if you go back in the old times,
attack.
It was for warfare. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. Martial arts was developed for warfare. But in the midst of all this stuff that we're doing, it's very calming and forging to the soul. And that's what it's given me all these years. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's become who I am. I've been teaching martial arts I've been doing martial arts for training in about 28 years, and I've been teaching it for about 22 years, just about as long as I've been playing guitar. And I'm not a big fan on rank or anything like that. And I don't go out and really say what rank I am, but just because we're talking about, I am a 4th Dan, mm-hmm. and I am a certified teacher. And I have a little dojo that I operate right now outside my apartment here, and I teach at where I work at a private school. I also teach there. And teaching martial arts for me is, I teach kids, I do a lot of different self-defense classes. I used to do the tournament scene. I did the full contact stuff. I still have a big passion for Muay Thai. I love Muay Thai. I used to do a lot of that as well, full contact. I haven't competed in full contact in probably about 8 years. I'm 44 years old. I still spar and I still train, but I'm not interested in getting my nose and ribs broken, anymore. No. I've been there.
Gotta work.
Yeah, and some of my adult students, I train them. They're big into MMA and all that stuff, and that's great. And I still do all that stuff. But it's just been such a huge way of life, and it's watching somebody forge their body and their mind and their soul has been something that it's just been phenomenal to me. Typically, a class will start with, a brief meditation, breathing exercises, then a PT, And then, the lesson, which could be katas, it could be one-step sprung, it could be traditional weaponry. Every class is different. And just the last thing I'll say on the martial arts, Eric, because I think it's very important, is in my earlier days of teaching, when I first opened up a dojo, I had like 60 students. Now I have 6, literally.
Big difference.
And I'd rather have it that way because I can focus more with these folks.
One-on-one.
Yeah, I used to think all day, okay, what am I going to teach? Okay, we're going to do fight night tonight. I'm going to teach you this technique, this reverse punch, this kick, round kick, turn, whatever it is. We're going to do this weapons technique. And I used to try to, line everything up, for the class. And it would always go well. But over time, and as I got older, I realized, you don't have to go off of a lesson plan per se. Now when I teach a class, I don't even have a clue, nor do I even think about what I'm going to teach until I step foot on that mat and we're done meditating. We turn around, we bow in, boom. Then something comes to me. Like Eddie always said, if you take credit for the music that you write, you're barking up the wrong tree because it comes from somewhere else.
That's right.
The art talks to me, and the art says what we're going to do. And those are the most beautiful moments. Like when you're playing a guitar and you're playing a riff and all of a sudden you just do this magical thing. You try to do it again and you can't. Because it's you can't grasp it. It's not meant to be grasped. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be remembered. It's meant to be a teaching moment. So I learn more from my students probably than they learn from me. And it's a very formal class. I'll see the student do a technique that I'm teaching and they'll do it wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily tell them that. I mean, I'll tell them, I'll try to correct them, fine tune it, but I'll say, ooh, that gives me an idea for the next thing we're going to do because they did that. And then it just continues to snowball. So every class is a little bit different. I mean, yeah, there's sparring, yeah, there's katas and there's weaponry and there's all the throwing and joint manipulations and all that stuff. But I try to let the art decide the direction of the lesson. And I think that's most important with any type of art.
I agree. I've heard a lot of guitar instructors say the same thing too. They learn so much from their students. So it applies to everything that you're learning from. The last question I have for you is to talk a little bit about your firearms background. And a lot of people, I'm going to use myself as an example, sometimes have fear of weapons because we don't have a lot of experience with them. I've shot some M16s, as I told you before, as a teenager in Air Cadets because I've always been in aviation and I was thinking about a possible military career as when I got older or whatever. And that's my only experience with guns other than, maybe shotgun on the farm or something like that. So a lot of people have a fear of it. What could you tell people for number one, like not to run out and go buy as many weapons as you want to spend your money on, but just some advice, maybe losing the fear of weapons, what you can do, where people can go for training, and just maybe debunk some myths and stigmas about it.
Sure, and I'll try to keep this answer as brief as I can. We can go on all night for this, and
I'll have you back just on this alone. We won't even talk guitars next time if you want.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm open for any kind of conversation. But
sure.
I've been shooting firearms with my dad and my grandfather since I was 10 years old. Way back to the old days of seeing the A-Team on Tuesday nights and the guys running around with Mini 14s and shooting a million rounds and nobody getting hit back when TV was actually fun. And you could have violence but not have people's heads getting split open. And
sure.
So, and there's a time and place for that. But so I always had a passion for firearms, and I always knew I wanted to be in either the military or law enforcement. I never went into the military. However, I was able to train for 8 years of my 13-year stint as a training supervisor at a nuclear power plant with special forces guys and Delta guys and different rangers and a lot of different contractors. I got the cream of the crop when I was traveling a lot and met some amazing people over my last job that I had, and that was just so beneficial. I had some great contacts, learned so much from these guys. But to me, I was brought up and I was educated on firearms. And not to get into a gun debate, but I think one of the reasons why our society is the way it is, we live in this world of Call of Duty video games and Grand Theft Auto, and these kids growing up never having any exposure or real training to what a real firearm does. We're actually handling it and understanding the safety aspect behind it, but doing all this stuff on video games and never really developing an appreciation or understanding about what it really is for. I've always subscribed to, well, guns kill people, guns kill people. No, they don't. They save people also. And if guns kill people, then forks and spoons make people fat. It's that simple.
Right.
And we live in a society where we want to blame the tool. Well, I think we, speak for Americans, we have a massive social problem in this country. It's a people problem. It's not a tool problem. There's this joke that I put up on Instagram. It says, well, if we should ban, if banning firearms will take them off the street, well, we should do the same thing with heroin. Oh, wait, it's still on the street and it is illegal.
That's right.
So my point is educating people is the key. Okay. Keep your finger out of the trigger. Never point the firearm at anything you're not willing to shoot. Be aware of your target's environment, what's in line with it, what's behind it, trigger control, stance, sight alignment. So in the midst of I was a cop for about 17 years, about 15 years actually, and I was the training supervisor for a nuclear power plant. So I did all the firearms quals, the tactical stuff, the use of force, handcuffing, procedural compliance. I did all that for a long time. And that's when I got to travel the country and train with some of these amazing people. So that's where I got my tactical experience from, and I still train with that today, and I still teach a lot of different smaller law enforcement departments and give them, patrol rifle instructor stuff and a lot of handgun stuff, because that's my passion. If you look on my YouTube channel and my Facebook, you'll see a lot of my toys. I have pretty much any kind of firearm you can imagine legally.
How can we find you on YouTube, by the way? What do we look up?
For Instagram, it would be Rob CJ 5150.
Okay.
And my YouTube channel, it's 5150 Rob.
Perfect. That's easy.
Guitar and firearm stuff. But one of the things that I do on a regular basis is I teach the firearms safety class to civilians. And with all the tactical stuff that I've done over the years and having such a huge passion for that stuff because I enjoy it, there's nothing more satisfying to me than taking somebody who, and I'll get women, I'll get different people that move in from different states. I don't really know much about this firearm stuff. My grandfather gave me these guns, and in order to be compliant and legal, I have to take a safety class. I think that's a home run because I'm not looking to make gun nuts out of everybody out there. What I'm looking to do is educate people on firearms and teach them that it's not the firearm that's going to hurt you, it's the person. These horrific incidents you see at schools and things like that, that's a whole nother ball game. These people shouldn't have had access to these firearms in the first place. But when you look at traditional gun accidents, and I don't call them accidents, I call them negligence.
Okay, good.
It never should have happened in the first place. They're all based off of poor or improper training. And you take both of my kids, Connor is 18 and Molly is 13. They both know how to shoot guns. Neither one of them are really big gun people, but they know exactly. If they see a gun at my place, which they wouldn't because all my firearms are secured, if they found something on the table, they would pick it up. They'd have their finger out of the trigger. They'd, hey, Dad, your firearms are. It wouldn't be taboo. Wouldn't be a mystery because they understand that. When you try to keep children and people away from, don't touch this, don't touch this, don't talk about it, don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Inevitably, over the years, they're going to be exposed to it. So wouldn't you want these people to say, oh, that's not a big deal. It's a firearm. Hey, don't touch that. Keep your finger out of the trigger. You want them to have an appreciation. Take them out and shoot them. Take them out and have them shoot the weapon. Have them shoot the firearm. Have them gain an appreciation and a respect for what the firearm can do. So that's what my passion is. And I've taught hundreds and hundreds of people over the last 10 years on just the basic license to carry safety class. And I've had people come in and basically have said, you know what? I don't want anything to do with this, but I got to take your dumb class because in order for my husband to have these guns, I have to take this class. My only thing is, tell you what, give me 3 hours, 4 hours, and I promise you that you'll have a good time. And every time, even the people that don't become gun people per se say, wow, I didn't realize this could be so much fun.
Real education process, yeah.
It's fun. It's a good time shooting a firearm and seeing where your target acquisition is in your sight, your stance, and trigger control. And you develop an appreciation for it. It really is a good time. And the byproduct of that is now you have a person that understands. They may not going to maybe go out and get a license or buy a firearm, but they're not so scared to be around them anymore. And that's a home run. And on the other hand, I've seen people that, they take my class and next thing you know, they're calling me months like, I just went out, bought 15 guns. I joined 15 ranges. And that's great. That's cool. It's an addictive habit, just like guitars. I mean, you got to be careful you beat the divorce cord. But
Yeah.
my biggest thing, Eric, and everybody out there watching is I am a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. I believe it is the right to bear arms. But along with that right comes a huge responsibility. As much of a Second Amendment supporter as I am also just as equally big on support of gun control. I believe there should be training. There should be licensure requirements. There should be background checks. There should be that. It's a right, but it also comes with a responsibility. I don't want child molesters and rapists and felons running around with firearms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there should be background checks. There should be licensure requirements, and there should be training. And a lot of times what you have with these negligent issues and accidents, as they call them, is because people don't have the training. And it's a perishable skill. You have to stay on top of it. So my objective when I do any kind of class, whether it's a tactical class with a law enforcement department, or a tactical class with a civilian group that wants to get some, shooting and movement and behind barricades and stuff like that, mag changes, manipulation stuff, whatever it may be, or it's a basic safety class. It all starts and ends with an appreciation and an understanding and a high level of respect for what we're doing. And it all revolves around education. And that is the key.
I could not agree with that more. Something as a closing note here, this is a takeaway I'm taking away from this, and I always like to find a takeaway from the evening, is the education process. Now, something that is not near as serious as firearm safety and training, something I did in my life that was an education process, and it's the biggest takeaway of an education I've ever done. I've always been into hockey and things like that as a kid, and I was not a very good player. That's why I play guitar. But years ago, I'd be that dad in the stands, and come on, ref, that's a bad call. Come on, it's, BS, and all this kind of stuff, banging on the glass. And so what I finally did one day is I said, I need to know what it's like to be on the other side of it, and I need some education. So I actually became a trainer and got my trainer certificate and my coaching certificate, and I coached hockey for a while. And it's a different experience when you're on the other side of it. And coming away from it, do I want to be a coach ever again? No. Maybe this person may not want guns. Maybe they will, but at least now, okay, if I do decide to get some guns down the road, I've got that education now as a starter pack. You know what I mean? So I think that's a great takeaway.
I think it is. And it's like anything else. I mean, no matter what you have out there, it's going to be abused. People are going to abuse it. I mean, you can ban guns, you can ban this particular type of thing, but it really doesn't matter because people are going to do bad things anyways. Mm-hmm. In a world of home invasions, in a world of muggings and crazy stuff like that, I mean, I personally believe that owning a firearm, I want to be able to protect myself and protect my family. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to take care of the people that I love. But at the same time, there has to be training on it. Mm-hmm. Given a driver's license without any time behind the wheel, you don't do it.
I know there's a reason for it. That's right. And I think there needs to be stronger control in that too. I think at a certain age, you should be the stronger reviews, because you're seeing these people that are confusing the brake with the gas and driving through store after store after store. It just needs to be done. So let's go say goodbye to everybody over in the chat. And we have an update for Rex. That's Fool Audio Research. That's from Mr. C5150. So he runs Fool Audio Research. And I think I did remember seeing that name. It was something of that nature. So thank you for sharing that. Michael Collins is here. Quentin James just woke up. You got to get up a little earlier to catch the show, Quentin. Michael Smith's going to a gun show this weekend, and I think Quentin had said somewhere about where he's born, you're born with a gun or something like that. I forget where he said it, but it was kind of one of those kind of a jokes. So for sure. And Michael Smith says he's 100% in agreement with Rob here as well too. And I would love to have you back again. And we've talked guitarists a couple times now with you here on the show, and I'd love to talk more things how we can improve ourselves, our mindsets with physical fitness, and not just like going to the gym, something I could benefit from, to martial arts, to more of education. I know people, and we can sprinkle some Van Halen content around there to keep people hanging in there. But we'll do that again for sure. I want to thank you again graciously for your time and years of friendship, and there's certainly going to be more of to come for sure. Look forward to having you back again, and we'll especially give us an update with that green guitar. Send me a picture tomorrow, and I'll tag it on the Facebook page.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. You know, when Eric and I talked over the weekend, and he said, "Hey, you want to come on to the show again?" I was excited. I mean, I do the show with Johnny and Dave, and that's a great time. And we have some really cool guests on the show. You know, and we talked to Pixie Licks a couple weeks ago.
Nice guy.
Yeah, awesome guy. You know, he lives 45 minutes away from me here in Mass. Just an awesome dude. And you know, we live in a community where this Van Halen stuff is it's all just a, you know, I mean, we have endorsers like yourself that actually are involved with the EVH brand and take it to another level. We have people like myself, which are builders and guitar players, and you know, do it for more of a hobby. But you know, it's funny. We all have a common interest in something that we've had a passion for since we've been so young, and that's Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Eddie's playing and all that. It's just so cool to have such a group of huge, you know, vast group of people out there that have such a passion for this stuff, and because we're all in it for the same good feelings at the end of the day. And then, you know, you jump over to the martial arts, the firearms stuff, and you know, I do a lot of personal training with different people out there and on my own because that's another passion of mine. But I just, you know, it's great to be able to come on and talk about this stuff because that at the end of the day, that's what keeps you going.
I know.
You know, that keeps us going.
Keeps us going,
and,
keeps us young and driving, craving for more.
But thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you everybody out there for watching. And it's always a lot of fun, and you know, I always feel like I make new friends when I'm able to talk about stuff.
And I'm going to toss one more question back your way, and unfortunately I won't be able to take any more questions, but Steve Anderson has a question for you. He says, now that Eddie's done the advertisement with the 2015 or 2017 EVH 5150 guitar, like I've got back there on the couch, I know you've got the ones that are built pretty much like the old Kramers, or they are the old Kramers. Do you have any desire to get the new 5150 Stripe?
I do, and I probably will at some point. I mean, my 5150 is like probably Ed's original as far as, you know, the same body style and or wood and everything, and the hardware, and you know, the whale tail original Floyd and all that stuff, and the relicking. When I was at Music Zoo in Roslyn, New York, a few months ago, I was able to play the guitar that Eric has in the back, the actual EVH, and it is just it's awesome. It's the same thing as my VH1 and my Bumblebee and you know, the Star and the Circus guitar. It has that same feel to it, but it's yeah. I think one day I'll probably will get one.
I think those are nice, and the good thing about it, the selling feature is a different neck profile than the other Stripe series, so it's a fun guitar to play. I can't stop playing it. I've hopped mine up now with the brass, obviously the brass block and everything like that from Adam from FU-Tone, but I've also put in the new brass string lock blocks, which Jared and a lot of us have as well too. So very, very cool.
Did you put a Fender logo on that too?
What's that?
Didn't you put a Fender logo on it?
Yeah, I think I got. Let me see. 1 second. I got a bunch more of them kicking around here somewhere, but yeah, I put the Fender logo on the Kramer font. I thought I had some right down below here, but just one thing I want to say in closing as we wrap up and say goodbye to everybody. A couple things. And the only reason why I want to say them is because it's time sensitive. We're almost into the Christmas season. Van Halen Store is one of the show sponsors here, VanHalenStore.com. They have phenomenal new merchandise. We don't have any new music from Van Halen right now. But we got some great merchandise. They have killer stuff. I sent Rob a list today of what I've got coming in. I'm going to show on the show next week. There's a dozen new items for really cool Van Halen stuff. Some new thermals, a 5150 embroidered snapback hats. Links down below, but VanHalenStore.com. Check that out for sure. I know there's something else I was going to address as well too, but I just want to say thanks. And you know what, guys, if you want, head on over to my Facebook page, facebook.com/evhgeartv, and throw some comments. If you'd like to see Rob come back on, you've seen Rob on the show twice now talking about guitars, and we were mixing in some other elements too. You know, we know a lot about Rob now as far as the love of Van Halen guitars. If you'd like to see an episode dedicated to just something outside the box and talking about, you know, physical fitness, martial arts, what you can do for self-improvement, some weapon control and education, I'd be more than happy to host an episode like that. You know, send a couple comments. If you'd like to see it, we'll do it. I know you'd come back on and do it for sure.
Absolutely. I'd be honored.
Great. Well, listen, we are almost to the weekend. I'll be back again Friday night. I'm having Chad Boston from the Line 6 Helix Group and Friendly Gear Freaks coming on. We're going to be talking about the Helix and what people can do with the Helix and fun things like that. Some other great guests coming up as we round out the new year. And I've got a birthday that falls on a Friday night, which is the first time in a while. So I might be doing something for some kind of a crazy, might go to the old school hangouts and get a bunch of people on. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. Maybe a couple of beers or something hidden off camera. Who knows? We'll see.
You're turning 30, right?
I wish. Yeah, almost 30 for the almost 30 for this. Oh no, I shouldn't say the second time. I'm not that old, but we're getting up there. So everyone's sending out some positive vibes in the chat. We thank you very, very much. And Rob, I'll say goodbye to you off the air as usual. And everyone, thank you so very, very much for tuning in. It was a real fun night with you as well. And it's made me totally forget about being a little bit under the weather. So you made me feel better. You guys are great. We'll talk to you very, very soon. Thank you all so very, very much. Going to turn it over to the little man, who I have to go tuck into bed. I let him stay up a little bit late because it's show night, so I got to get him tucked into bed. And he's going to tell us his name, what he's playing, and we'll see you guys on Friday. Talk real soon. Cheers.
Hey, my name is Eric, and I'm playing the Franken Strap guitar.
Video production services provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs.